Maybe do it when the episode starts.
When the episode starts. All right, 3, 2, 1. Oh, come on, Dillon. We even warned you.
I thought you meant just you were gonna clap.
Oh, it's all of us.
I missed the cue. Sorry.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back to the Decent Human podcast. I'm Evan.
Jenny.
I'm Chris. Yeah.
That's Chris.
Go introduce myself.
And today we are joined by a very special guest, Dillon. You know what? I want to introduce you. You're the PB&J king, but I kind of want you to just do a little intro for us. I'm excited to have you on here, man.
All right. I'm Dillon Ceglio. I'm the founder and CEO of Chubby Snacks. Chubby Snacks is a superfood peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I hate to pay them homage this early on, but think of the Uncrustable, but which is better for you ingredients. They are the OG in the space, so I do have to pay homage. But yeah, we're just doing it the right way with our little patented cloud-shaped sandwich.
I like that.
Sick.
Doing it the right way. Yeah. Welcome, Dillon.
Thank you.
Awesome
Thank you for
to have you on
joining
here.
us.
Very excited. I think when we first started the podcast and we were like, we're going to bring people on here, you're the first name I threw out. I was like, we're going to have Dillon on here.
That is true, yeah.
And then every week I was like, we're going to have Dillon on. We're going to have Dillon
He
on.
throws out a lot of names, but yours was the first.
The first?
And I was like, but we got to be more organized before he gets here because I don't want to be just like ruffling around. Just
we
like,
were never disorganized. I don't know
yeah,
what
you're absolutely right. Forgive me. I'm sorry about that. But Dillon, you brought us some special snacks today. I mean,
yes, special in a sober type way, but yes. Special.
Like if everybody's wondering, these are the Chubbies right here. We got how many flavors do you guys have now?
Yep. So we have 4 flavors, most specifically that we sell in retail. It's going to be peanut butter and grape, peanut butter and strawberry, almond butter and grape, and almond butter and strawberry. Next week, we're actually launching an exclusive collaboration online. That's all I'm going to leave it to until now, or for, I guess, maybe later we'll talk about it.
I know, but I can't give it away.
But really excited
So
about it. It's
you're
going to be
gonna
dropping Thursday.
You're going to leave Chris and I hanging out.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
Oh,
can't.
Yeah, we can't talk about it too much.
Can't talk about it.
At all?
Sick.
You guys almost made it in, but you didn't.
Still on the outside.
Yeah. It's like, think of us
I want
as
to
the
pop one of
sandwich
these
and
in.
you're the
I've never
crust.
tried them personally.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to pop one of these.
I'm a
in.
little
You wanna
offended
pop it?
being that you
That's the
invited me on your
flavor
podcast.
Yeah, we probably should have done more research, huh? Chris, I told you to try these.
I like that it's authentic.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
Organic, authentic.
Is this
very
the
good.
flavor you're trying?
I don't know. I just
The
do it.
grape jam, I have to say I like the grape jam.
Yeah.
Grape jam.
Yeah, I do really like
Have you
it.
tried all these?
I've tried every single one.
I mean,
In
every
your
time I
garage,
do a photo
right?
shoot with
Yeah,
Evan,
and-
I have to give him like
Yeah.
20, 30
Yeah,
sandwiches.
because I'm always like, oh, I need extra for the photo shoot,
Yeah,
and then
that's
I just eat them all.
In case you mess up, though, right?
Yeah, and yes, exactly.
Yeah. Plus, we want the most beautiful cloud-shaped sandwich. Too,
Well,
so.
it's
Wait,
also
did
fun
Evan shoot this? Like this actual shot?
that exact bag
Yeah.
right there.
This bag.
That
This
bag,
is
the one you
Evan's
hold in.
doing.
Evan's touched every
I-
aspect of the brand at this
Can you
point.
tell? How do you feel about it? How did you do? Like,
How do I feel about what?
yeah,
No, I didn't shoot
shot.
this one. I didn't shoot this exact image.
Okay.
But I have shot quite a bit of images
Okay.
for Chubbies.
I just wanted to know feedback on Evan's
I mean,
work.
honestly, Evan's been around since like prototype 1, I
Yeah,
think,
man.
with our circle-shaped
Yeah.
sandwich.
So
And
he's-
then, and I could go into that a little bit later too, but yeah, since essentially
Yeah.
the very early days of Chubby Snacks.
Yeah, we got introduced, and then I remember you driving up. You dropped off your just like a whole bunch of different
Oh, yeah.
stuff, and you were like, "Have at it, man." What do you got? He, one of the main reasons I really like working with Dillon is that he brought all the ingredients too. Exactly what I needed. It didn't. He left all the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
Because he's very adamant of like the organic nature of it, all the different ingredients that are going to be used. So even in the imagery that we are putting forward, it's all real like food and things that are used in the
You brought it
sandwiches themselves.
individually, like
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the idea really is to like tell it, you know,
we're going.
we
That
want
one. All right.
we want the consumer to like just understand like what we're actually putting in it, and the big
Yeah.
part of the company is also just to be transparent in terms of like the ingredients that we're putting into the product. And so I think it's like really important when we're putting together some studio shots to actually showcase what's going to be in the sandwich that you're eating.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So prototype 1, how long ago? How long have you guys known each other?
So when I first launched the company, it was in June of 2020, so like right in the middle of the pandemic. And we launched actually with the circle-shaped sandwich. And so I'll get this right out of the way. We are now a cloud shape because we got hit with the cease and desist from Smuckers. Unbeknownst to me at the time, they have a trademark on a circle-shaped sandwich.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I mean, when they got it, I think it was like in the early 90s, and I don't know if there was just... I don't really know. I can't really speak on how they got it,
Yeah.
but they got it. And they had a patent on the construction of a circle shaped sandwich as well, but they lost that in the early 2000s because there was a like mom and pop, like kind of pot pie company based in like the Midwest that I guess has been around for longer than the Smuckers brand. And they challenged them in court saying that like, hey, we've been making this for, 100+ years or whatever. Like you have no merit on having, access to like this patent and trademark. And so they lost the trademark, but they kept the patent. And so when I launched, I didn't know that. And so I think it was like 20, 30 days while into business, I got hit with a cease and desist for the trademark. And then it was like a litany of other things, slander, falsifying advertising. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I was going into my first investor meeting and I get an email and then also just like a stack of papers on my doorstep. And it was just like, you did all these things wrong, like turn your business off completely. And so like, as you can imagine, like at this point I had put all my money into this business and the wind was more or less blown out of my sail. But then obviously once the dust settled, it was a quick realization that we were onto something.
That's
and
cool.
we ultimately just needed to hire an IP attorney, change the shape, and we were pretty much on the fly after that.
To me, it's like if you have somebody that early on that's coming after you at the size of Smuckers, it's like it's kind of indicative of, hey, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Else they wouldn't be threatened. Right?
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, did you get that same kind of sense like, oh, now that we're hit with that, it almost kind of validated the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, like initially it was like so scary again, because I put all my money into this and I'm like, oh my God, like 30 days, I'm already out of business. I mean, they're also like, worth $15 billion. They have a whole department within their company that's just focused on like making sure that their trademark is not being copied, which I can't, I respect that. Like it is what it is. I mean, it's still crazy to me that they have a patent or a trademark on a circle shaped sandwich, but, I think ultimately it was the best thing that ever happened to us because it allowed us to go out, rebrand ourselves, reshape ourselves, make ourselves a lot more unique and disruptive in a sense.
Yeah. So I want to take it back a little bit before then. Where was the idea of even before that? What were you doing before Chubby's?
All right,
Before
you want me
the
to just go
idea.
through my like investor pitch?
Yeah.
All right, so year one, Dillon is born. What's going on? No, take it from the beginning.
I do think it's like an important part of my story just because like a lot of it comes from like just where I brought up and just my overall upbringing. So I grew up right outside New York City, Bayonne, New Jersey. It's right outside Jersey City. And I like to talk about it in the sense that like I grew up in a blue collar city. There wasn't, I never even knew what an entrepreneur was or what entrepreneurship really meant. But you walk to any street corner in my city and there's either a bodega or there's a pizza shop. And, you don't think about, or at least for me, like I didn't think about those guys as being entrepreneurs, but they are small business owners. They are entrepreneurs in their own right. And, I was lucky enough to go to a Jesuit all-boys school in downtown Jersey City. And there I met like all these kids that were from predominantly rich areas in like the suburbs of New Jersey. And it was very, straightforward in terms of like what your career path was. It was go to St. Peter's, graduate, go to a good college, get a finance degree, end up working in New York City in like Wall Street or some part of financial, space. And for me, it just wasn't like that. I didn't do very well in high school. I ended up dropping out of college my freshman year. I went to junior college. Then luckily enough, I got into USC out here in LA, which brought me to California. Oh, wow. And it wasn't until I got to California that I start meeting my friends that were all entrepreneurs in their own right, selling, beanies from their backpack, T-shirts from the trunk of their car, or even making beats and selling them to hip hop artists. Yeah. And I was just like, damn, like this is really cool. Like I never thought about doing like a side hustle. Yeah. And so that ended up turning into like, I actually.
It's already ready?
That's good timing.
Oh, that smells good.
I burned your Chubbies.
That smells really good. Yeah, it smells really good. This is an authentic experience because I've never had one before.
I know, it's like
a little
first hand
easy bake oven type deal.
I'm a little stressed, I'm not going to lie.
It's got great ingredients, honestly.
Thank you.
You have monk fruit in there?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a low-calorie sweetener.
Yeah, really pays attention to this stuff.
Yeah. I do. I really do.
We use medjool dates as like our main sugar source.
Yeah.
Outside of like dehydrated fruit powders and flavor extracts as well.
Wow.
Okay, so you're here in LA at USC.
Yep.
Seeing kind of like the hustle mentality with all these people around you.
Yep. Yeah. So then I just started thinking of like how can I ultimately like throw myself into entrepreneurship. And actually the craziest thing is, and I can't believe I'm going to talk about this, but my first entrepreneurial experience was creating an app, or like at least the prototype of an app. Yeah, and you guys all have seen Hitch with Will Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I got to USC, Tinder came out. And so everybody got on Tinder. And
You're the founder of Tinder.
No. No, I wouldn't.
It's like I actually did all this before.
Yeah, I was like,
No,
wait,
no.
hold on. Who is this? Dillon Tinder?
No, but all my friends and I, we would just like talk about our conversations that we were having with girls on Tinder.
Yeah.
And we'd always just like throw our screenshots in there and be like, all right, how do we like carry on this conversation?
Yeah.
And I found myself giving advice to my friends a lot about like how to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what if there was like a business surrounding, essentially being Hitch from the movie, but in like helping kids with like Tinder.
Yeah.
And so I created a prototype, and I had 2 kids from UCLA create an Android and an iOS prototype.
So you're going to USC, but you found the kids from UCLA.
Yeah.
And this is
that's
what,
smart.
back in
Yeah.
like 2009?
2012.
2010? Oh, 2012.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the idea of the app was to, if you were stuck in a conversation with somebody on Tinder, you would upload the conversation into the app, and then it would be like crowdsourced responses, and then it would be like you get people that would upvote responses and like kind of help you walk through a
Almost
conversation.
like a Reddit type situation?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And then like the idea was to like if you were really good at giving advice, like you could potentially make money off it by being like a coach
That's
of some
cool.
sort. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. But you said you made the prototype of it, so you didn't actually get a full functioning app? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know anything about tech at the
Yeah.
time or app creation, but I was able to convince these kids, like, hey, this would be a really good project for your portfolio. You're graduating. So
I love the salesman.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is gonna be really
Really
good
great
for
for your
you.
portfolio.
Just make
That's
it
how
for
Evan
me.
started. That's how Evan got
Evan
into
hit
this.
up
Yeah.
everybody. It's like, this is gonna be really great for you.
They just went to his
so obviously
garage.
that went nowhere.
Yeah.
But it was my first like chance of like turning an idea into something that was like somewhat concrete. And so obviously I moved on from there. I did like I then created a like clothing accessory brand called Original Grit. So just so you know, I came from like a pretty heavy military background. My parents and my sister and my grandparents, uncles were all in the military. And so I at one point wanted to join, but then I decided that like I thought I had more opportunity building my network in LA after college. So I just opted out. But a project that I created was called Original Grit. And the idea was to create like clothing, so hats, t-shirts, bracelets, and then I would sell them, and then in return I would give back everyday essentials to homeless veterans around Los Angeles.
That's cool.
So I created an essential bag, and in that essential bag were everyday items that were essential to living. So toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant,
Wow.
towels, socks.
That's
things
incredible.
Like that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I would go around Los Angeles and I would find like homeless veterans because all of them have like signs. You pretty much could start where what is it? In West LA, there's a veteran department.
Shelter.
Yeah. And so I would start there, and I would just give out these essential bags, and then I would ask for their story. And so a lot of them would give me their story, and then I would put their story on like just like a product insert. And then every time you bought a product, you'd get that insert, and you'd learn about that homeless
That's
veteran.
cool.
That's super
That's
cool.
incredible.
So it was a really cool experience. I partnered with this Skid Row Housing Trust, which is a nonprofit in downtown LA, and they help transition homeless people into permanent living, essentially trying to get them back into society. And so I worked with them on a new building that they launched in downtown LA, and I provided essential bags to everyone that was joining that house. And but ultimately, what came of it is I didn't know how to market to like my consumer. So ultimately, like the best place for me to sell that product would be to like Middle America. But I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to do Instagram, Facebook ads. And so I ended up dissolving that company. And then I was working in just like corporate America, and I ended up leaving corporate America. And I just told myself I'm going to go all in on digital marketing. Like I really want to learn this skill set.
Yeah.
And so I tapped on some friends from USC. I asked them if I could just work for them for free, doing anything from like Facebook ads to Google ads to email campaigns, things like that. And then around the same time, I did my first solo backpack trip through Southeast Asia. It was like a 3-week trip. And as you can imagine, I had the same conversation with pretty much everybody I met. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? I ended up leaving Southeast Asia with 3 clients. And so I ultimately just opened up shop when I got back to
For
LA.
digital marketing.
Yeah, for digital
Sick.
marketing. So I was working with like an esthetician in the UK. I was working with a clothing brand out in Australia. And then I ended up working with my friend's like insurance company after I got back. And so it was a really cool way to get my feet wet. And then that essentially created the snowball effect for me of like building out my digital marketing agency, if you will. And so then I decided to run it back the next year, and I did a 3-month stint in Europe, just backpacking around. And I picked up a couple more clients that way, and then ultimately built out like this boutique agency, mostly focusing on like social media ads for e-commerce, CPG brands. And then it was during that time that I noticed that there was like this crazy trend happening in the food and beverage space where brands were popping up left and right that were just recreating traditional products with elevated nutritionals and better for you ingredient lists. And so then I was like, all right, this is pretty interesting. Like, I think I could sell anything online at this point. I just need to figure out this food stuff.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I'm so glad I was naive, because had I known what I know now, there's
you and
no
I have
way.
talked about that before. Like, if you had known beforehand, it's
Can I
crazy.
curse?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fuck no, what I'm doing. So I ended up tapping on my brother, who's like very big in like nutrition, and I had him put together this fruit forward, very basic jam recipe. I slapped it together with like a clean nut butter and organic bread. I packaged it up and I just walked around Los Angeles to like different soccer camps, baseball camps, and just handed out sandwiches to like moms and kids. And the proof was immediately in the pudding.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knew, at one point or another, every kid has had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
And because of the Uncrustables, like everybody understood the
Concept.
and the convenience of like a packaged PB&J.
So it wasn't a full package and everything when you're handing it out, like it was branded and everything like that.
Yeah, so I just had like the packaging didn't look anything like this. It was just in like a
Before you ran into this guy, right?
Well, no, it was just like.
Is that why you're asking the question?
No, I'm asking because like when you say you like just got started, you slap together the peanut butter and jelly, you make it sound so simple. So in my mind, I have like a Ziploc
there's
bag,
so many, yeah.
and like you're handing it out like a Ziploc baggie. He's like at the
No,
I
bar.
think
no,
everyone
no.
wants
You're
to
like,
know like exactly how you got from like each step.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what people are
Yeah,
confused
I mean-
about, like want to know is
Yeah,
it's not
Because you make
easy.
it sound easy,
Yeah.
but it's not, and
There's
it's
like all
way
this
more steps.
behind
To
the
it.
Yeah.
scenes stuff that's happening.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like
Speaking of that, I just want to
Yeah,
try.
Yeah,
it.
try
go
it
for
really
it.
quick because it's still warm. I've already tried
for
this,
it?
so
can we get some of the ASMR in the mic?
everyone.
No, I literally have misophonia.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I
We're
love
gonna
it,
cut
Evan.
all that out.
I know.
It's so
This is
good.
good. Really good.
You're right though. When it's toasted,
Yeah.
so much better.
I can't speak now. Hold on.
Yeah, we should probably get you some. There's some peanut butter in there. So
But that new collab you got coming out that we can't talk about.
we
Tastes
not
really
talk-
good frozen. Just
Should
saying.
do like a sneak peek tip, something.
yeah, we could talk about it. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like either if this comes out before it launches. So we're doing a chocolate hazelnut and peanut butter combination. So essentially, we're the Better For You Uncrustable. This brand that we're working with is the Better For You Nutella. And so we partnered with them to create more of like a decadent kind of sandwich.
So they have it's not Nutella. It's a better for you Nutella.
Exactly.
Because Nutella has so much shit in it. It tastes so
Yeah,
good,
it's
but has
terrible.
so much shit. And
Yeah.
it's so bad for you.
So this one focuses a lot more on like the
Evan loves
hazelnuts.
Nutella, by
I
the way.
love Nutella.
Yeah,
I love this. I love Nutella. I love pizza.
Everybody's chewing there.
I hope I get this right because they'll probably hate me if I don't. But it's hazelnut cocoa or hazelnut chocolate. The hazelnut comes first because there's more hazelnuts in than
Or
the
like
chocolate.
cacao, or is it?
Yeah, but it's different than Nutella. I think Nutella puts more chocolate than hazelnuts in it. And then there's no palm oil either, so it's like
You already had it?
yeah, 4 come in a pack. They're all individually wrapped too,
Boom.
made
There
for
we go.
convenience.
There we go.
Sorry, you were talking about the oils and looking at oils and everything.
I'm just gonna eat.
You're gonna sit back and eat.
Yeah.
You're definitely not even in frame anymore.
I
No,
don't
you're
want
not.
to. I don't want to chew near the mic, but yeah, I don't want to get into the oils because
No, I think it's great.
We don't use palm oil in ours either.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
or it's just the peanut butter or the almond butter is just peanuts or almonds and then sea salt.
No.
That's it.
And so when you said like you didn't even know anything about making the actual food, you were a digital marketer. That was your bread and butter. No pun intended.
Yep.
That
Smooth.
and then so what did that look like learning about food and creating it? Because I mean, there's got to be health codes. There got to be all sorts of
Yeah.
things that you had to learn along the way.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, the way I kind of looked at it was like, we're just going to throw ourselves in the deepest part of the pool and we're either going to sink or swim. And if we swim, we just got to figure out how to tread water as long as possible until, things get a little easier. What I know now is things won't ever get easier. At every point in the business, as much as you scale, like there's just different complexities that come into the picture. But yeah, I mean, like we opened up our kitchen. So I guess I'll give you an understanding of like how we started making these. Outside of the Uncrustables, there's really no other peanut butter and jelly company. And so when you go to a co-manufacturer and you ask them like, hey, I need to make 50,000 crustless peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They all kind of just laugh at you and say like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And so we got turned down by a bunch of co-manufacturers in like the very beginning. And so the only other option really was to open up a commercial kitchen here in Los Angeles and just start making them.
Kind of like a cloud kitchen, but like on a bigger scale, or what does that look like?
Are you familiar with like the WeWork concept?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's essentially the same thing. There's just a big facility, there's parceled out spaces, and then you essentially just like lease out that space, and then you either have like a hood scoop, so it gives you the opportunity to have like an oven and some different types of machinery, or you just have like a packaging room. And so we've had both. Or at different times we've had different ones, but you just ultimately lease that space out and you just start doing your production there. What's cool about them is that they really help amplify your brand by giving you access to like loading docks, so you could actually and storage, so you could store your finished products there, and then you could also have like FedEx or UPS come and pick them up.
So it's like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we ultimately opened up a kitchen there, and we just started making them as if you would make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at your kitchen. It was really difficult at first just because you don't really get much output for your input. And so we were like, all right, how are we going to, make this, more streamlined? And so we just started, coming up with different ideas of like how to make these sandwiches faster with least amount of people. And so we laugh and like call ourselves like the Einsteins of peanut butter and jelly manufacturing. And like, but it's kind of true. Like we've tried literally 100 different ways to like make these things as fast as possible. And in a sense, we cracked the code. And we were able to then use that new process to then like in a sense put in a PowerPoint presentation and go to those same manufacturers and be like, hey, we did just under $1 million in sales our first year. We just launched into Whole Foods. We have all these opportunities coming up. Like you should take us seriously now.
Yeah.
And thankfully, like we had a couple that ended up saying yes. We ended up moving forward with our first one. And on our first day of production with this new manufacturer, mind you, it took 3 months to get onboarded with them. I show up for our first production day and he tells me that they went bankrupt and they're going out of business on Friday. And I was like, You gotta be fucking kidding me, right? I was like, dude, like the writing had to have been on the wall. This took 3 months for us to get onboarded. How the hell are you telling me today? Yeah. So now I'm sitting in this office with like 2 40-year-old men and I'm just like reaming them out, like calling them motherfucker left and right, because I'm like, dude, like I just like hustled my ass off to get to this point in my business. And you're pretty much telling me that like you're going under now. Like, like, so you're telling me
some kind of warning, something just like, hey, by the way, we're not doing too great. Yeah. Like you might want to start looking elsewhere.
Yeah. And mind you, it was kind of crazy because like we had like this terrible news that day. And at the same time, we had just won like 3 new grocery stores and Whole Foods had just placed their second biggest PO. So thankfully we built up enough inventory at our first facility, which was here in LA, to be able to fulfill those orders. But I mean, they fucked us like royally. And so I then just like, I had to pack everything up and have it out of their facility by Friday. And we had been talking to another manufacturer in the Midwest. And so I just put all that stuff on a pallet and I shipped it to the Midwest and hoping that this manufacturer would take our business. And so we then had to go through all this paperwork to get onboarded with this new manufacturer. And it took about a week. And they're like, all right, like you guys are good to go. Like, let's start, working together. And they're like, when can you get the product there? And I was like, today? I literally was just sitting in a facility.
I'm outside. You're just like outside the window with a pallet.
The camera, you're waiting.
Honestly, it was crazy. And like we were, we put all of our eggs in one basket. Like we had no other choice at this point.
Insane.
And so, so like, you kind of go through it. You can't prepare for things like this, obviously, but
and I don't think you're at the point yet where you could kind of diversify your manufacturing plants either, right? You can't just be, like you said,
the saving grace is that we didn't shut down our LA facility. So I immediately just hired a bunch of people to like come back in and start manufacturing sandwiches. And so we just threw more bodies on the line until we were able to get like started up with the new manufacturer.
And you were doing it by hand for a while too, right? Because I remember even talking to you early days and you were, I was in there packing sandwiches, cutting it out, everything, all that.
I mean, like, absolutely. I mean, even to this day, like we'll sometimes have to go in there and like, do some like actual manual labor. It's just like kind of, the way of growing this business.
It's gotta get done.
You always have to be willing to like just, roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty.
And this was like your first full-on company, right? Like before that, you had digital marketing, but this is like your actual full-on company. Yeah,
I mean, we had a service company, right? Like I had 2 employees, and we were making hands over fist more money than I ever have with literally zero overhead. Yeah. This totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah. I mean, we started the company in June. I was able to raise like a little bit of friends and family money right off the start, and within 3 months, I pretty much ran out of money.
What was that like?
Jesus.
Like just raising money, friends and family, just for anybody that wants to start.
Yeah.
Start out?
I mean, you got to be like, you definitely have to go in with as much of a bulletproof plan as possible. Like, granted, you won't have a bulletproof plan. Like, there's going to be so many holes. Like, you're essentially just coming to somebody with an idea and a vision and the passion that you bring to the conversation. And it's just like a hope that like somebody's willing to like just take a risk on you.
Yeah.
And it's still like that to this day. Like, I mean, I think we've done a really good job at proving concept, but like, you know, we're 2 years into business essentially, and we're still trying to convince people based off of me walking into the room, showing my passion about what I'm doing, and as well as the vision. Like, granted, we have some like hard numbers to back up, like, you know, some of the things we're doing, but at the same time, people are still taking just as much of a risk on us.
Yeah. Well, I think would you say in those early days, is it more about the product or more about the person? That when you're trying to get those early on investors?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, definitely, like, you have to have like a good like strategy and plan to like how you're gonna win at what it is that you're making. But yeah, I mean, people are betting on the jockey, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, I walk in there, I talk with a lot of passion typically, but like I'm so gassed up about this.
Yeah.
Like, I get to wake up every day and make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a living. Like,
Healthy
Dream,
peanut butter and
dude.
jelly
Yeah.
sandwiches at that.
Heck yeah.
if
Well,
that's an American
that was
dream, I don't know what is.
as more as American as you can possibly get. Well, it's just like that was one of the big selling points on when I met you. I was just like beyond the sandwiches. Like, again, you're playing on nostalgia. Like, automatically, I told you I got it. Like, I understand what this is, and it's the organic, healthier version. Great, sold on the product. And then when I met you, the drive and the hustle, I was like, this guy's not gonna.
Yeah.
He's not gonna drop the ball.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna try.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, like, it's hard. Like, there's no doubt. And like, I mean, you know, you second guess yourself here and there every now and then, but you just have to have faith that like you could get it done. You could figure out every problem. And like, it's like the best part is like, you also have to be just like very okay with making imperfect decisions, because no situation that you get to, you're going to know the answer to. Like, you could definitely use like your investors or your advisors or whoever you have in your corner to like help get through some like tough situations. But at the end of the day, you're the one making the decision, and you have to be confident in knowing that you're making the best decision, regardless if you know the outcome or not.
My question is like, I want to go backtrack and understand the mentality going into it. Did you grow up in sports? Did you grow up in like an entrepreneur? I mean, you said blue collar, but what's the mentality? Like, where do you feel like you learned the most?
Military discipline, baby.
Yeah.
No, my dad was in the military. He was not very disciplined. And if he ever listens to this, he'd be pissed. But no, my dad's very regimented, but he didn't necessarily like force anything on us. It was all like, I want you guys to go out and learn. Like, the coolest thing like growing up is that my parents were very lenient in terms of like allowing me to be who I wanted to be. Like, I mean, some of the coolest experiences I had was being like 12 years old and like telling my mom I was going to a skate park downtown, but my friends and I instead would get on the PATH train and hit New York City, and I would skate all the way up to Central Park or like Brooklyn. And like, my parents had no idea where I was, and then I would take the Staten Island ferry back to Staten Island, and then back over the Bayonne Bridge.
God,
And
you
like,
sound so New York right now.
Yeah,
Like, shit.
but like, there's a reason why.
And then I got a pizza and I filled it up, and then I hit a taxi cab and said, watch, I'm walking here.
Wow.
That's my New York accent.
That's never came out before, so it must have been Chubby's that brought that out.
That was a new one.
Yeah.
I dig that. I feel like you were me. I saw you talking, but
You saw me. Yeah. I get it.
no, there's a reason why I have Street Logic tattooed on me, and that's the reason why it was also my marketing agency name, because growing up, I just like I felt like I learned best by experience, and like I felt like I had a pretty good head on my shoulders, so I was like quote unquote street smart. I was never really book smart, which is also why I have my SAT score tattooed on me.
What is it?
But it was,
It's 1440 out of
that
2400.
was better than me, so yeah.
This is 3 scores
Yeah,
combined
you-
into one.
Yeah, Chris,
It's brutal.
Yeah, Chris got a 200, and you get a 200 for signing your
Signing
name.
your name.
That's what it is.
Wait, really?
No, of course. No, I played dumb. I'm not that dumb. Come on, seriously.
I'll play dumb. I swear I'm smart.
We all know Chris
Smart,
is
smart.
You're smarter than you look.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jenny's famous quote in the first episode.
Well, he's actually way smarter than you look. Like, you have like ideas, you know? Well, you're a pretty face. So, you know, the people have like preconceived notions of like,
No,
what you're
for
gonna be
sure.
like.
Smarter than you look.
He's
Thanks,
smarter than you look, man.
Fuck. That's when I knew I should have just left this. The podcast.
still here.
You're still here, yeah. Damn, that's good. So you're smarter than you look.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, yes, I think so. There's definitely times where I wasn't so confident, but yeah, I mean, I played sports all growing up, so like that definitely had like a big impact on me in terms of just being regimented. And then it was really just like compounding effects and efforts that really made me, I think, to be the person I am today. I mentioned earlier that I went to USC. I didn't know anybody at USC when I moved out here. So that at the time was the biggest step that I ever made in my entire life.
Why USC?
Well, I worked really hard to like in junior college to like really build up my resume. And that was like, I was a big brother, big sister mentor. So I knew that would help like making, college decision a little bit easier from a school's perspective in choosing me. I was also in a couple of honor societies too. And so my idea was like, all right, I'll do okay in grades, but let me build up my external resume to be able to like help create opportunity to get in schools. And so I ended up getting into the University of Miami, Northeastern, and USC. And at the time, I had never been west of the Mississippi River, and I just wanted to take the leap of faith and just try something new in a new city, and really just start new. And so for me, the mindset was like, all right, this is going to be the biggest decision you'll ever take in your entire life. If you nail this, like everything after this will be a lot easier.
Was it?
No, because this is by far the hardest thing that I've ever done. But I, as I mentioned to you, like I did that first backpacking trip through Southeast Asia, which then was the hardest thing that I've ever done. And then, go ahead.
Looking back on it, do you think you learned the most from going to USC or the backpacking trips, like an all combination? like if you had a choice, like, oh, I'm gonna learn the most experience, like go to school, go travel, and go learn an experience like
Chris really wants to
firsthand.
know that answer.
Yeah, it's tough.
He's hoping for one answer.
Yeah.
We know what that answer is,
Yeah,
but
I don't
let's
think
see
I
what
really
it
could
is.
give one answer because, like, you think about it,
It's
like
a combination, yeah.
school is great because it provides you structure and it gave me the opportunity to meet a bunch of people, like either be class or just going to the basketball court and playing pickup basketball. So that was huge in terms of just like building this network here in this city. But at the same time, backpacking is crazy too because like you have to have your head on a swivel. Like you're in a new place, and like the coolest part is like you're in a new city, a new language. There's different economy, different society, different cuisine, different languages. Like there's so many new things. And so it provides so much opportunity to gain perspective by just walking the streets and just like really diving deep into like that place that you're in at that moment. And that was massive for me because I'd never been really outside of the United States by myself where I had to like worry about communicating with somebody that speaks a different language.
Do you speak any other languages?
Nope. What I found though was the biggest like impact with whoever I was talking to in any of those cities was just knowing how to say hi, goodbye, thank you. And that went so far because there's just a quick level of respect.
The biggest thing, yeah, body language.
Yep.
Body language is the biggest thing, regardless of the
Yep.
language barrier.
And I really just wanted to feel vulnerable. Like I have tattooed on me something about just like discomfort. And like, I think it's really important to constantly find ways to feel uncomfortable because it constantly challenges
100%.
you. And so like,
I believe that,
yeah, trying to figure out how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations just allows you to continue to learn.
Actually, I do have a question about Chubby's.
Go for it.
And I feel like you may have told me this, but I may have forgotten. The name. Where
Yep.
did the name come from and why?
Oh man, this is like the potentially multi-million-dollar question here. No, so honestly, at the end of the day, like I just saw oxymoronic value to be something that I wanted to like associate with the brand. It's just very hard to compete in the grocery store as well as even online. And the idea was I just really wanted to elicit a response from the consumer, be it positive or negative. The idea was just that I wanted you to see our product and stop you in your tracks
And,
be
like,
like,
remember
what is
it.
this? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to be memorable. You need to stand out. I mean, there's a reason why, I don't know if you guys saw recently, Liquid Death, right? It's a water company that sells in a can. I mean, the graphics on and the branding are awesome, but it's called Liquid Death and you're drinking the product, which is
Right.
water.
We literally talked about it multiple times today.
Yeah. I mean, they just got valued at $700 million. And their name is Liquid Death. Like it couldn't be more on the polar opposite of what it is that they're selling. Right. And what's cool about it is that it's creating space for us to exist and not be frowned upon because of our name. Instead, like we found that like Chubby Snacks is a fun, brandable way for us to sell a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, outside of like the cloud shape, we're really selling what's in the product and the convenience around the product.
How did you decide on the cloud shape when you had to like go away from the circle?
I mean, that was a pretty, it was a big pain in the ass having to deal with that. But I mean, just from a manufacturing perspective too, because easily we could have been like, all right, let's just do a square or a triangle. It's very easy. But we wanted to go deeper and try to be more unique and differentiated. And my business partner actually is the one that came up with the cloud. And so we put together a couple of like 3D printed like manufacturing presses, and we were like, all right, we think we could figure out how to like commercially manufacture this. And we in a sense broke the code on that. And so we were just like, all right, fuck it, like let's go with the cloud. And then we put It's a Cloud on the packaging.
That's what I was laughing at. I just
Why were
noticed
you
that.
laughing?
Yeah.
It says It's a Cloud.
Yep.
Just to let everybody know.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's
like,
good for me. Like
there's
at least I know now. It's a
yeah,
cloud.
there's
Did
a
you
bite
not-
out of it, so it's
Did
like
you like run into people not understanding or?
no. Actually, if I'm being honest, we put It's a Cloud because it was more of like a backhand to Smuckers
Yeah.
for not being a circle anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
big old one of these.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm not gonna lie, I lost so much sleep thinking about how stupid this would look when somebody actually saw the package. And then I launched it, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" And I
Yeah,
was like,
cool.
"Oh, fucking thank God."
Well, then, even on my standpoint, from like photography standpoint, we're
Yeah.
able to use it in different scenarios
Yeah.
now
Yep.
and make it part of the image instead of just another product.
Yeah, 100%.
It can be the background. Like we have the cloud actually floating in the background instead of real clouds. We have your chubbies.
Yep, 100%.
So
Yeah.
I think it actually played in your favor.
Definitely. And I mean, at this point, too, it's like we need to figure out ways to continue to be more Instagrammable, if you will. And again, it's just to really stand out. And so we figured like a cloud would be a really cool way for us to like really leverage our brand online.
Yeah.
And then by leveraging our brand online, it just creates more opportunity for us to either launch into new grocery stores or also partner with really cool brands and do just things outside of just the sandwich.
Then, so when you were going through all this, you were saying like, this is literally the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. At what point were you creating Chubbies? Did like the light bulb go off and be like this is it, like I'm making it, or like even just a almost kick in the ass or a fire is just like I'm doing something right? Like was it getting into a retailer? Was it getting into a store? What was that feeling?
Yeah. I mean, I still like deal with like imposter syndrome in
Sure.
some sense, but no, I mean, I think like winning
Or like a super win. Like what was a win for you to like keep you going?
yeah, the Whole Foods, like getting into Whole Foods was definitely like
that's huge.
a big milestone for us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a dream retailer for us, right? And like they were the first ones to come knocking on our door. And we have some like big opportunities coming up next year, which we're really excited about as well. But I would definitely say that was probably like when I was like, damn, like, all right, this is pretty real now.
Did they come in from noticing you online, or how did that come to fruition?
Yeah, definitely partly from online, and then just like utilizing my network to like get introduced to the right people. I mean, realistically, a lot of what comes down to it is like who you know, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so what we really focus on is when we bring on investors and advisors, we make sure that they're strategic. Like, don't get me wrong, it's difficult to just bring money into the picture, but when you have the ability to bring in strategic money, it makes so much more sense. Just because you could utilize their network, you could utilize their relationships, even their intelligence in terms of what they've done in the space as well. And that just goes so far.
Can you give a little bit of insight what that's like getting into store retail? Because I know there's a whole, people don't even realize this, shelf space is huge.
Yeah.
And like where you are on the shelf and how does that all work?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, so most grocery stores work in like what they call as a reset. So like every year they'll do a category review. So like we're in frozen breakfast or frozen snacks. That grocery store is only going to do a review once a year. So you really only have one chance to get into a grocery store on a yearly basis, which is crazy, right? Like you really have to nail it down at that point. You have to prove to them like you have the ability to manufacture enough sandwiches to keep up with their demand. You need to be able to hit their price points and their margins, as well as just like do all the extra stuff too. How are you going to drive sales, right? Like, so you're willing to spend money to drive, do like trade spend, do demos, any external marketing to drive people through the door. So all those things really come into play when you're trying to sell yourself to a grocery store. And for us too, specifically, we're in frozen. It's the most like coveted space in the grocery store because it's so limited. And so when we come in, that usually means they have to kick somebody out. Yeah. And so it's right place, right time. And then also like you have to have a lot of like, I hate to say it, but hype around your brand too.
That's where the digital marketing comes into play. Basically.
Definitely. So like for me, like the strategy was like, let's build up as much like brand online through social media to be able to then go to these grocery stores and be like, hey, like you've definitely seen us through some way or another online. Like this is a reason this helps us kind of get our foot in the door ultimately.
I know that brand mascots do really well, especially on TikTok. Do you guys Are you guys looking into that? Do you have that? I
Yeah,
haven't
we have
checked
like a
into
little
it.
sandwich with like feet and arms. His
Oh,
name's
sick. Okay.
yeah, his name's Sammy. We have
His name's Sammy.
he's actually on that sticker on the toaster oven.
Sammy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
We haven't really done too much with them.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out how to like, kind of like add them into like our marketing strategy. I mean, you think about it, it's like for us, our core demographic is health conscious shopping moms, but we're also catering to the kid too, right? And the way that we look at it
And
is
a
like,
grown man. But...
well,
And the Evans of
and
the
then
world.
Evans of the world.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, you bring up
Yeah.
a good point, right?
Yeah.
Like that is our core demographic, but at the same time, like we're lucky enough to where our product is unique enough to be able to allow us to cast a wider net, right? We have, people that eat based like snacks because they're nostalgic. We have fitness goers that are eating our products because of the macros
to get a
and
snack.
the ingredients. We have, food, just regular foodies. We have, families eating our products. And what we're learning is that the kid's lunchbox is the gateway into the entire family's eating habits. And so we're really trying to message ourselves as more of like a family brand opposed to just like trying to, target one specific audience. But at the same time, we're not losing our focus on just like that health conscious shopping mom, because she is the one that's, more or less making the purchasing decisions for the family.
Yeah.
This is way down the line, but do you see yourself taking over that whole lunchbox of the kid? Like
Like, are you gonna
down the
expand
line,
outside?
would you
Ooh,
expand and take?
nice.
You
Yeah.
would be the go-to for all the lunchbox pieces.
So this is also all right. I mean, I have an answer for this. What's interesting is that like depending on who I'm talking to, that answer differs. Mostly because like when you talk to investors or you talk to buyers, they want to hear about like what else you're going to do in terms of like product expansion. But for me, it's like we're trying to take advantage of this peanut butter and jelly space. I'm trying to make as many peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that I possibly can, just because of the opportunity that's there. I mean, the Uncrustable paved the way in terms of like building out this like robust, massive industry of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, most of which are unbeknownst to most people. Like Smuckers Uncrustables did over $500 million in sales last year. Like 90% of that came from like grape and strawberry peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which means that I don't really need to do too much outside of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in order to be able to build a massive business. And the way that we look at it is like we can convert 1 out of 20 Smuckers Uncrustable customers and we could be a $50 million company.
That's crazy.
And so why should I deviate too much outside of what I'm trying to become an expert in just to be able to say, hey, I just launched X, Y, and Z products. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, can I, jar up jam or jar up peanut butter and sell it on a shelf? Sure. But at the same time, if I launch products into the shelf stable space, that's a whole nother business that I have no experience in. Those are all buyers at grocery stores that I have no relationships in. So my focus is like building up as much real estate in my freezer door as I possibly can with the flavor combinations I have, just being able to build out more shelf space through that, as well as then launching new flavor combinations that we'll test like online to see if they would work well in retail.
Yeah. So like with the whole entrepreneurship, like it sounds like you're just full of freaking knowledge, man.
Yeah,
like
you're so really smart.
yeah, just you're full of all this good understanding. But I know that took you time to learn, right? As you just kind of dove into this, like you said, you're all in. You figured it out. You didn't know anything about the food and beverage space before you entered it. But beyond that, just the entrepreneurial state. Is there any advice that you would give anybody that's trying to start their own business, that's trying to get out there?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
It's tough. There's your advice.
I know. I mean, like, there's so many things you could like talk about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know anything going into this, like other than knowing how to like sell products online. I didn't know anything about food and beverage, but like, we just promised ourselves that we'd be, perpetual students of the game. Like I just want to continue to learn as much as I possibly can. And I think surrounding yourselves with like experienced veterans in the space, as well as just like smart people in food and beverage or just smart people in general, is just really fucking important. And the fact that like, and you come to them like vulnerable, just as a student of the game, saying like, hey man, I want to learn as much as I possibly can from you. And you'd be surprised how many people are willing to give their time. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, people love talking about themselves, right? And if you're willing to be an ear that they could do that to you, like they're going to tell you everything. Yeah. And so I just kind of took that in stride and just like constantly asked the right questions to the right people, or asked what I thought were right questions to the right people. And then just being in it, like you have no choice. If you want to do this, you have no choice but to just constantly, challenge yourself with like the next challenge. Yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, it's hard to like throw that into like an advice gem, or
you're just not going to know everything.
You're not.
And you got to be prepared for that, and you got to be able to find those answers. But Where did you find those answers? Did you go online? Did you just network? Did you just go to events? Like what was it? All of the above?
All the above.
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube was our best friend early on.
Really?
Just fucking up was also our best friend too, right? Like when we first launched this, that first month before we actually launched, I just would make sandwiches and ship them in different types of ways through the mail to like my family members and be like, all right, take a video, let me see what it looks like when you open it up. And like we fucked up so much in the early days, like just not knowing logistics, but then we got better at it, and then we got better at it, and we got better at it, and then that ultimately created a really cool experience for the consumer, and
a
then
great story on top of that.
yeah. And so, I mean, it really does come down to just trial and error and just like not giving up. Like I said it before, just like tread water. Like you just have to tread water.
Yeah.
It's the only way
Seems
to
like
do
your
it.
trajectory was really fast though, because it's only been like a couple of years since you were going like door to door to places.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also really lucky. So I feel like a lot of brands that I talk to, it's like single founder companies. And I have two founders, and they're both like pretty strategic, to an extent. I mean, Brett is the guy that I did marketing with, and he had no operations experience before this, but I was just like, dude, like one of us has to do operations. One of us has to be like the brand and like the fundraiser. And he was just like, all right, I'll do operations. I'll figure this shit out. Like you go do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And so like, we obviously worked very closely together, but like, I just like gave him freedom to just like fuck up and just try to figure out like all those problems. And he did, he crushed it, and he is crushing it. And then we brought on like advisors that would help him just like, get past milestones that we were facing that we didn't have experience in. And then John came on, and John was more of like the finance, like sales guy. He came from Nike, and he has, I mean, dude is like an absolute whiz when it comes to Excel. So he helped me price the product. He helped me, figure out how to like, calculate our margins, how we could tell this whole margin story, as well as just like drive the conversations with all the retailers too. I literally wouldn't be here today if I didn't have those two pieces of the puzzle. And so between the three of us, we're just like an ultimate brain trust where we move so fast and we're so like on the ball in terms of just being consistent. And again, like we're just very good at being okay with making imperfect decisions and trusting that that person has done the work and the due diligence to make that decision. And I don't think a lot of brands have that, which has helped us really like excel as fast as we are.
Did you ever feel like the fold up shop?
I mean, it's like, it's really like I keep saying it's really difficult, and it's because it is. I mean, like this is a very expensive business. And so we're like, since the day we launched this thing, we've been fundraising, right? And this is two years in. And, there was a point in October 2020 where I literally ran out of money at every single bank account, every single credit card of mine, personal and business. I had zero money in it, and or I was in debt. And there was 2 weeks where I couldn't sleep like at all, because I'm just like, how the fuck am I going to pay these people? How are we going to move forward? I was waiting on a check to come in, but he was like, he was talking to us, but like he wasn't committed yet. And Brett and I were doing digital marketing still at that time too. So every dollar that we made through marketing either paid him or paid our kitchen staff. And it was 2 weeks where it was just like fucking hell, where I was just like, all right, we're done. And it was literally the loneliest place I've ever been in my entire life. And so like getting through that moment specifically was like a really big like part of my life, where I was just like, dude, if you could do this and you get past that, like you could do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. And so, I mean, it happened again at another point in the business, but it's just kind of the roller coaster ride that you're on when you're an entrepreneur in this space.
When you're faced with those situations, where does your mind go immediately?
I mean, you could definitely get pretty negative. I mean, you think about like all the people that are watching you and they're like judging you based off of like either your success or your failure. Most people probably are hoping that you fail, but I shouldn't say that, but in reality,
but those people are out there, right? They're just like,
of course. Yeah. And I honestly, like, if to be completely truthful, like I have the biggest chip on my shoulder. Like I want to fucking win, and like I know I'm gonna fucking win.
Hell yeah!
But like, it's just like it's having that determination. I'm still getting up. It doesn't matter if I had the shittiest day the day before. I'm still getting up at 5:45 and getting to the office at 6:30. Like I don't give a fuck. I'm just doing it. Mm-hmm. And I know that the consistency and my perseverance and the persistence that I have is what's gonna get me to the next step. And so I just constantly keep that in the back of my mind. And it's helped me thus far. So absolutely. I'd like to think it's doing something right.
I think you're doing something right. Is it having those business partners, and now that you have those advisors, does it make those hard times a little bit easier than maybe in the early days of it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like I'm still like I think I still have the most risk associated with it, but like having them to rely on and to like go through some of these shitty moments is like really important.
Yeah.
Just because like now I have them to vent to, and we're all like in a sense like equal, right? Like we're in it together, and so they understand it just as much as I do. And so like I'm not now like just laying in bed like aimlessly trying to just like thinking about these things. At this point, it's just like I know we're gonna get through this because like I have the best partners that I could possibly ask for.
I don't know. Hearing your whole story and everything, because like I had my own small business early on, and I did athleisure wear, and very very small correlation to what you're doing, but I remember those hardships and like just having to deal with it, and it kind of goes back to what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Just you have to just get up and do it yourself. At the end of the day, it's you're the one that's kind of responsible and have to bear that weight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't change it for the world. Like I like the responsibility. I like having the pressure on me. I like having people not necessarily rely on me, but like rely on me, right? And it's just like it's fucking motivating. Like especially now that we've been in it for this long, like I don't know. I couldn't be more fired up about just like waking up every morning and like getting to do what I get to do.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
You know, it's like and now even more so because like you know you go into a grocery store and it'll never get old walking down the freezer aisle and seeing your product in there. It's like that's so fucking cool.
I do it every time I walk down the frozen aisle at
Just
Whole
to see
Foods
it.
in Porter Ranch. Well, I walk by, I'm just like,
I mean, it's yours.
I know that.
I mean, you're part of it.
Yeah,
How
I'm a part
many
of it.
companies do you actually have in Whole Foods? Like you're like, oh, I shot this, I shot this, I shot this.
That's actually
You
kind
like-
of funny.
yeah, do you like-
No, but
you like
Chubby's
to
I
go down?
actually have an association with, and so I do have a bit of a pride.
Yeah.
When it comes to working with you guys and seeing it in the grocery store.
Totally.
And then when you tell me that, you know, like you haven't said how many Whole Foods you're in yet. Can you share how many Whole Foods you're in?
We're in about like 65 all throughout like the SoPac region, South Pacific. So Hawaii, Nevada, Arizona, and from LA down to San Diego.
Yeah, dude, it's incredible,
crazy.
man.
That's
Like
crazy.
you started a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and now you're in Whole Foods, and then I know what's on the horizon.
Yep.
I don't know if we're going to be sharing any of that.
I can't talk about that yet.
Can't talk about it yet. So, but that's what gets me jazzed up, man.
Yeah.
I walk down that aisle and I see it, and it's like I remember seeing you in the driveway first day, handing me the box. We go and do our shoot, and then now we're at this point, 2 years later. I can't imagine what we're going to be in 10 years.
Hopefully I'm retired.
Hopefully hopefully I'm retired too. No, but that's incredible, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, one quick question. For those who are thinking about starting to find fund a business, can you give like ballpark of what you even started with? Like,
Oh yeah.
Five.
I started with like $50,000.
Okay.
And quickly realized that
Not
I
even
was in
close.
way over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you think about it, like you really need to prepare for like the craziest of situations, right? Like, I mean, if I were to have done it again and started fresh, I would have expected to start with at least $250,000, if not $500,000. And that would at least just get you through like the proof of concept, you know, before making all those iterations and really starting to expand out. But I didn't know. I had no idea, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, in that situation is ignorance a bit bliss,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, being naive was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Not only from like understanding how much money I would need,
Now you're
but
too experienced. So now you know what it takes to go in, and you're just like, you're gonna need more. You gotta have this. Who's on
Yeah.
your team?
That
Before
might
you just
stop you from doing it if you know.
totally.
100%. I mean, like I didn't know anybody in food and beverage either. I didn't really talk to anybody before starting this, so like nobody even like warned me like, yo, like you better be ready for like all the shit that you're gonna face, running out of money, like dealing with all like the complications, like or just even having like the compliance in place to be able to make these sandwiches and sell them legally. Like there's so many things like that you just don't think about. But when you don't know about it and you just are tasked to do those things, you don't think about like the repercussions or like the reality of like, oh fuck, if this doesn't work out, like what's gonna happen? You're just like, oh fuck, I just gotta do this.
you just go and you figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Dylan, thank you so much for coming on a Decent Human
Absolutely.
podcast. It's amazing to hear the story. I love hearing all the detail. Chubby's just doing fantastic. Round of applause for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
Let everybody know where they can find Chubby's, where they can find you, where they can buy Chubby's.
Yep. So we sell online, chubbysnacks.co. We don't have the .com yet, but we have the CO. Yeah. Soon. I could go on a tangent about that. It is. Outside of that, we're in a little over 300 grocery stores right now. By January, we'll be in about 600. So if you go to
that's
our
great.
website, the store locator, you'll be able to find any grocery store that's in your region. If not, we'll ship right to your door.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank
guys.
you, everybody, for tuning in for your Decent Human podcast. Like, subscribe, share, comment, let us know what you want to hear from us next. Take it easy. Bye.
Peace.